Good morning. Good morning. This is Robert Frank again uh, with Magic12, and we're going to continue reading in the book here, Psycho-Cybernetics and Self-Fulfillment. We actually finished all the main chapters. We are now in the back part of the book that's called Questions and Answers. And this might be very interesting. So I'm going to continue reading here, starting with questions and answers. For years now, people have been asking me questions about my theory of psycho-cybernetics. People who have read my book, Psycho-Cybernetics, or The Magic Power of Self-Image, Psychology, or Creative Living for Today, people who have attended my lectures throughout the country, people who are interested in improving the quality of their lives. I've jotted down their questions from time to time, and here are some of them with my answers. I hope you'll find them helpful. For easier reading, I have broken down these questions and answers in terms of subject matter and then arranged them alphabetically so that there is, of course, some overlap. Many may branch off into two or more different areas, but I feel this system will aid you in locating the specific subject matter that interests you the most. So what we're going to start out with was anger. Anger, sudden and often, and the question is why? It is necessary. If not vented, will it cause frustration? Answer. Anger is one of the great destructive forces within us that hurts us most when we give vent to it. It comes sudden and often because you give it life. Is it necessary? No, but life without it, without resentment, negative feelings, is no life at all. Perhaps these negative feelings come our way as red lights, telling us to stop, look, and listen. Take stock of ourselves. Remember our assets. Know that we can rise above anger. Can you picture self-respect with anger, humility, and with anger, compassion, self-acceptance? Unlikely. Anger is frustration, an explosive kind of frustration in which you turn a passive feeling of hurt into an active performance of willful destruction. How does one overcome anger? Each person must find his own way by remembering that the world within him is part failure, part success, and success means the capacity to rise above failure and above anger. Here are 3 ways of standing up to anger. 1, look in a mirror. See your face in anger. See the snarling expression. Now turn this face into your other face, the one of confidence with a smile on it. The first tension and second relaxation. Ask yourself how long you want to be angry. Make the decision and see if you have the courage to laugh, then laugh out loud. Get rid of the pent-up energies in some activity, even walking. Walk, walk, walk. Forgive, forgive, forgive. Forgive others and yourself. 3, write the nastiest letter you can with all those words you want to use. Write it as long as you want it to be. Then read it, and then reread it. And you have just passed through a decompression chamber you have created for yourself. Then tear up the letter and throw it into a waste paper basket. That's pretty easy. Okay, the second one is compassion. My daughter's my daughter, age 3, asked me the following question. What is the nicest word? Answer. I asked this question of many people in my lectures throughout the country, and invariably the answer would be love. I would answer by saying that compassion is the nicest word because it incorporates love. Compassion also means the giving of your courage to someone else. It means your optimism about life, your maturity, the transplantation of some of your assurance to someone else. It means your self-confidence, self-acceptance, and self-respect shared with others. It means the sharing of your integrity, ingenuity for positive creative action with others, and the transplanting of your nucleus of faith into others. Compassion is a full-time job that needs no time. It is the beginning of the brotherhood of man. With it, you are somebody. Without it, you are nothing. It is ironic that Stroesshammer, who hated mankind, said that compassion is the basis of all morality. How true. One evening after a lecture in a church in Seattle, Washington, one young man of 17 asked this question. Suppose you had to leave this world in the next hour. What advice can you give in one sentence to us young people? I answered quickly. I don't need a sentence. I can give it to you in one word. Compassion. When you have compassion, you are expressing humility and the greatest trait of the success instinct within you. The world then belongs to you, for you know that the world belongs to all other human beings too. You share your fortune with others. You share love of mankind with others. You express the godlike quality within you. And you cannot give compassion to others unless you have compassion for yourself. Don't ever sell yourself short. Have compassion. Next one, discipline. Question is, what is discipline? In Vienna, about 100 years ago, many women died in the hospital after giving birth. A professor, Klein, claimed it was a pollution from the atmosphere. A young doctor, Philip, didn't believe this and finally discovered child fever was blood poisoning brought about by contamination from the hands of medical students who had examined the woman. Professor Klein represented authority. The other person represented freedom of thought and truth. Authority kicked the other person out of the hospital. He spent the rest of his life fighting for his ideas. But authority was death. Finally, examining a tissue specimen of a mother dead from childbed fever, the other person cut his finger accidentally. He developed the fever and died. Even though a man, he got childbed fever. Thus, even in tragedy, freedom of thought triumphed over authority. Excuse me. In the household, we find another battle between authority and freedom of thought. Par- Parental authority versus freedom of expression for children. Children have the future on their side. Adults have maturity and wisdom on theirs. Still, parental authority is ill advised when it involves punishment and lack of understanding. Discipline of a child must be creative, not destructive. As in Dr. Klein's punishment of the other doctor, indeed, it is more a test of the adult than of the child. Understanding and self-respect are keys to creative discipline. Creative discipline is a partnership between parent and child, a board meeting between the self-image of an adult who has made mistakes and that of a youngster who will make mistakes. In creating this compassionable atmosphere, discipline is constructive. The adult still has his self-respect, so has the child. Thus, discipline can only be creative if it first involves self-discipline. Control of emotions that lead us to fail, fear, anger. Use of emotions that help us, understanding, self-respect, and courage. We cannot impose our self-image on a child. The child has his own self-image. He must help him improve his self-image and be happy with it. Creative discipline in industry is also a partnership between the parent, the manager, and his children. The managed, there must be a psychological meeting of the minds, a board meeting with respect and compassion. Emotional scars. Question. Have you a simple guide to heal emotional scars? Answer. I wouldn't call this a simple guide, but you can heal your emotional scars if you don't sell yourself out. If you don't keep bemoaning your bad luck or hiding because you feel you're unworthy. In terms of emotional scars, the American Negroes have realistically legitimized grievances and though may point to progress, basic iniquities remain. Yet these people endured with emotional scars, true, but they endured, and surely they felt a great pride in their ability to keep going under such trying conditions. And as did the Jewish survivors of the horrifying Hitler persecution, who arriving here with families and possessions gone, gritted their teeth and built a new life. Or the person who, born in poverty or with other disadvantages, have fought their way to their goals. Learn a lesson from such people who refuse to let emotional scars disfigure them. Forget about your bad luck or unworthiness. Question your feelings that you are inferior. When your frustrations enrage you, channel your feelings. Use it constructively in your own interest. And every day ask yourself, how do I, my own plastic surgeon, heal my emotional wounds? Your best tool is the self-image you create. You create this picture of yourself when you rise above blunders and turn crises into opportunities to create this strong image of yourself. Next one. Evil. Question, you said that you do not recognize evil. In the Old Testament, the Lord says, I created evil. Are you not closing your eyes to reality? How can we, as you suggest, completely ignore one of the great forces in this world, the force for good and evil, the force for evil? Shouldn't we know our enemy? Answer. In the first place, I didn't say that. I said that to me, the greatest evil in man is within himself. When he makes a blunder and refuses to rise above it, as I mentioned in my book, there are two forces within us: the will to survive and the will to self-destruction, the will for happiness and the will for unhappiness, the will to succeed and the will to fail. We have a success mechanism within us and a failure mechanism within us, our assets and our liabilities. And we learn about the failure instinct within us only to see what it is so that we can rise above it by using our confidence and courage and understanding. Living creatively means that not just being successful, but being successful by rising above blunder. The greatest evil, I repeat, is to complain about a failure and do nothing about rising above it. When I said you should turn your back on negative feelings and live creatively today by using your confidence to reach a goal in the present, I didn't mean that you shouldn't recognize negative feelings, but the reverse. Recognize them, but do more than that. Do something creative with them by turning a crisis into an opportunity. Existentialism. Question: what is the relationship between psycho-cybernetics and existentialism? Answer: I spoke at a seminar in Encino, California last year, and one person congratulated me on my book, saying it was a remarkable work of existentialism, and I didn't know what he meant. Which reminds me of the time when I was addressing a group of sales executives in Miami Beach. I entered the 9th floor elevator, ready to meet friends in the lobby, when I overheard a young girl of 18, not knowing who I was, say to her boyfriend of 22, I don't like psycho-cybernetics. The boy saying, I do, the man answered. Why don't you like it? It isn't vague enough, she replied. I like satire. He's vague. In the first place, there is nothing vague about satire. The great exponent of existentialism isn't his play. No exit expresses his philosophy. It is a philosophy of negation, has a negative connotation that there is no future, no hope for man, that he is the victim of a fatality syndrome. Psycho-cybernetics is just the reverse, expressing hope and belief in man and the conviction that he himself has the power within him to fulfill himself and rise himself to his full stature of self-respect and dignity. As a human being, we are not talking about no exits. We are talking about entrances into creative living that determines within ourselves. The existentialism is a red light. Stop. Psycho-cybernetics is a green light. Go forward to your goal. There is an old Irish proverb: if God shuts one door, he opens another. We can paraphrase that by saying that if a man shuts one door upon successful living because he failed in one undertaking, he must be ready with his hand on the knob to open another door of opportunity to succeed. He is opportunity. And when he succeeds, he expresses the godlike quality within himself. Friendship. Question: what is friendship? Friendship is something most of us seek to attain, but many of us become disappointed in its results. We find ourselves disappointed in others. We feel wounded and maltreated. We seldom wonder if we had been at fault. It must have been the other person. Friendship is a most important undertaking in our lives. It is a basic goal. We must try to understand it more. For friendship is not what we take from others, but what we give. It is instilling courage in someone else. It is the transfer of our self-respect to others. It is the sharing of our confidence with others. It is the gift of what we are to others. In friendship, we offer part of ourselves to others to grow to our proper stature of fulfillment. We must remember others, meet others more than halfway, giving our best selves to others. Only thus do we receive friendship in return. We must be constantly busy repairing our self-image. For to be a friend to others, you must first be a friend to yourself. You must always be ready to repair the damage you inflict on yourself. If you do not accept your failures, you must rise above these failures to accept yourself. Only then can you give your friendship to others, and only then can it have true value. Question: how do you make friends? Answer: I tell you about 4 women I know who meet once a week every Friday evening. They rotate their meetings at each other's apartments. They have been meeting Friday evenings for about 30 years. They were quite young when they first met, and all 4 had natural blonde hair, so they had the color of their hair in common. But they had something much more in common, too. They were unable to hide their feelings. And when these 4 young ladies first met, they immediately became friends. Years have passed, and the women are in their 60s. They are more devoted to each other than ever. But what do they do on Friday evenings? They discuss their families, the news, new fashions, and new plays and movies. But the really important business of these evenings is poker. The women are devoted poker players. A devoted poker player bets money, of course, and they bet money. Not big sums, but not tiny either. And here is the startling thing. At the end of each year, the 4 women wind up even because they still have not learned to conceal their feelings. None can assume a poker face. When one gets an excellent hand, her eyes light up. When another has some luck, she utters a little sound of pleasure. The 3rd woman smiles, and the 4th beams. Are these amateurist card players? Perhaps, but in another way, I think they are fortunate, for they enjoy themselves and remain friends because they don't know how to put on a poker face. Anyway, the question is how to make and how to keep friends. For the world can be a lonely place. Is there an answer for loneliness, for making friends and keeping them? Yes, it consists in tracking the problem simply. Some people will go to great effort to impress on others to make friends for themselves, but they are not wise. You cannot make and keep friends by assuming a false face. If you put on a false face, a poker face, it causes people to wonder what is behind it. The surest way to make friends is to show what is in your heart. Stop covering up the real inner you with a poker face. Instead, remember the 4 women who, refusing to wear a poker face, have enjoyed friendship. Next one, frustration. How do you overcome frustration? Answer. First, we must define the word. Everyone experiences one kind of frustration or another every day, but it is there to stimulate us to rise above it, to solve a problem, and not to yield to it. When crushed under it, we feel the kind of frustration you are talking about, a chronic type of negative feeling. We are creative artists. When we let our servo mechanisms solve ideas and problems, but to many of us, we jam our creative mechanism with worry, anxiety, fear, trying to force a solution with our forebrain, the seat of our thinking, but not the seat of execution. This jamming of our creative servo mechanism doesn't serve us at all. It inhibits us from our goal, putting a roadblock of negation in front of us, creating frustration. There are 5 roadblocks of frustration. 1, we worry not only before making a decision, but after. We carry this extra 50 pounds of worry on our backs all day long. The cure? We express anxiety before we make a decision, not after. There are, let us say, 5 ways to answer a problem. At this point, anxiety is creative as we choose which road to take. Once we do choose, however, we stop worrying and call upon the confidence of past successes to guide us in the present. However, when we call upon failures of the past to guide us in the present, we create immediate frustration. Number 2, we not only worry and fret about today, we worry about yesterday and tomorrow. This sets up the pattern of instant frustration because did I skip the page? I think I did. Because we call upon past failures and future apprehensions to guide us in the present, but we cannot think positively with negative feelings any more than we can think negatively with positive feelings. The cure? Think only of today. Every day is a complete lifetime. Forget yesterday. Lose it in the vacuum of time. Tomorrow doesn't exist. When it comes, it is another today. Let your servo mechanism do what it can do well. Respond to the present. You try. Now. Number 3, we fail with frustration because we try to do too many things at one time. This creates tension instead of tone, spasm instead of comfort. When we try to do too many things at one time, we try to do the impossible. The cure? Don't fight relaxation, join it. Learn to do one thing at a time. This brings relaxation. This frees you from the burden of hurry and failure. 4, we wrestle with our problems 24 hours a day without let up. We carry our problems from our office to our home to our bed. It creates tension that produces frustration. The cure? Sleep on your problem. If you are unable to solve it, sleep on it, not with it. Let your success mechanism work for you when you hit the pillow as you recall past successes. 5. We refuse to relax. We don't know what it is. We just don't know the word, that's all. The spasm of repeated worry produces the spasm of frustration. You can't have someone relax for you. You got to do it on your own. The cure? You sit in a room of your mind and you relax there to cut the electrical circuit of distress. Relaxation overcomes frustration. Don't think it, fight for it, do it now. Functioning is the next subject. Question: what are the steps I should take to function at my best? Answer: 1. Since we are goal-striving beings, we function best when striving for some useful goal. 2. And we express happiness in the successful achievement of this goal. 3. Happiness can be and should be a goal in itself, like breakfast in the morning, and we should strive for it as aggressively as we would for food. 4. Deliberately, as a creative mind watcher, seeing the difference between the happiness habit and the unhappiness syndrome is more than a palliative. It has practical value because we should always remember we are built for success and it is our right to choose what is best for us. And the happiness habit is the best for us. A mental habit we can cultivate without imposing on others. In other words, we reach for happiness remembering not to step on the toes of others, not stepping on our own toes with negative feeling. 5. We must also remember the obvious. We cannot be happy and successful all the time. Problems beset us every day. Why make them worse with increased fears, feelings of inferiority, resentment, uncertainty that prevent us from achieving our goal? 6. Unhappiness destroys self-respect. We have no right to let it push us around. We owe it to our stature of dignity. Number 7, we must understand that happiness is not something we earn or deserve. There is no morality involved in it any more than in breathing, or any more than in survival. And it is not a reward for being unselfish. The act of unhappiness is selfish in that it destroys our worth. 9, the act of happiness is a special moral sense, is unselfish in that in making us what we can be, we automatically become more understanding and therefore less selfish toward our fellow man. Number 10, we must think of unhappiness as painful and evil because it makes us less than what we really are. Number 11, happiness, on the other hand, makes us rise to what we really can be. Remember the words of Ralph Louis Stevenson: to be what we are and to become what we are capable of becoming is the only end of life. Next, is God dead? My belief is this: when people say God is dead, they are not aware of the fact that they are saying that they are dead, and that something within them is dead. Human nature is such that in too many instances, when we are at fault, it is so easy for us to blame someone else. And if we get tired blaming someone else, we may blame God. With all the battlefields all over the world, Vietnam, Middle East, and so on, the area where three great religions came into being, we are apt to blame others, even God, forgetting that the greatest battle since the beginning of man has been within himself, the battle with his negative feelings. Resentment, the twitch of the tensions, the gout of the mind, the daily cancer within us that robs us of our security and dignity, the termites of nothingness that bore holes within us, leaving us empty as human beings. We must tear down this wall of Jericho, down, 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 so that we can see the image of ourselves in God's image. What do I mean by this? I mean this. The business of living is to rise above a blunder, rise above negative feelings, reach our full stature of self-respect, and then share it with others. Success or happiness is contagious. You can share it with others, pass it on to others, for when you reach fulfillment, you express the godlike qualities within you, and it cannot remain hidden within you. You have the responsibility to share it with others. You belong to yourself, to your family, and also to the community, country, and world. Is God dead? He is alive in the hearts of all of us, and we have a moral and spiritual obligation to share our knowledge with others. There is no police force great enough to police the world within the framework of the UN or without it. You must first police yourself, the negative feelings within yourself. You must control them and rise above them. Wouldn't it be wonderful if one day the UN would have a world forum on Is God Dead? Happiness. Can you make a habit of happiness? Is the question. Answer, yes. The ingredients that make up the state of happiness are: 1, smile. Smiling can become as natural as breathing air. Learn to smile at least once or twice during the day. More if it is a great day. Be cheerful. Think of some past success. Use the confidence of that past success in your present undertaking. 3, be part of humanity. Be friendly toward other people. The world longs for friendship. 4, stop criticizing yourself and stop criticizing other people. 5, don't let your opinion color facts in a negative way. Don't let some unhappy past smother the present. Forget yesterday. You live today, refusing to permit the negative feelings of yesterday to prevent you from reaching your goal in the present. 6, learning to react as calmly and intelligently as possible to the day, no matter what happens. Excuse me. If you fail today, remember that tomorrow is an extension of today. Try again the next day. Happiness is the capacity to rise above failure. Know your capacities and your capabilities. When you limit yourself to what you can do, then success is yours. Don't try to be someone else. Question: what do you mean when you say that you can spread happiness? Answer: we have all heard the communicable disease, but have you heard of communicable happiness? Yes, communicable happiness exists. 2. And there are typhoid Marys of happiness. People who spread communicable health, the opposite of typhoid Marys who spread illness. There are certain signs by which you can recognize the typhoid Marys of happiness. These signs are: 1. Sense of direction. 2. Sincerity and understanding. 3. Compassion. 4. Courage. 5. Self-respect. 6. Confidence. 7. Self-acceptance. 8. Cheerfulness. 9. Optimism. 10. Faith in self and in God. 11. Desire, will, and never failing, positive ability to help others. These are the typhoid Marys of happiness. They spread health, and by spreading it, they are even more infected by health and happiness than themselves. We all can have these qualifications. We can make them our own, one by one, and become typhoid Marys of happiness. We become mind watchers, dig beneath our mistakes and find treasures underneath, our assets that give us the means to achieve happiness and spread this happiness to others. How important it is today to discover the secrets of outer space. How much more important it is, perhaps, to be the mind watchers discovering the inner space of our minds, feathering out the guilt and hurt feelings that distort our self-image and make us less than what we are, rising above failure to discover that we are successful, not from the successes we achieve, but from the failures we surmount. It brings happiness, a happiness we are anxious to share with others. This should teach us one of the greatest lessons in living, that we can be enriched and ennobled by our scars rather than destroyed by them. We then become typhoid Marys of happiness. We then become part of a great adventure in staying young. Remember the words of Horace: seize now and hear the hour, that is, nor trust some latter day. If we become typhoid Marys of happiness and then infect only 10 others, and they in turn infect 10 more, then how rapidly communicable health and happiness can spread all over the world. Remember that happiness is the only product in the world that multiplies by division. Question: what is your definition of happiness? Answer. Question: what is your definition of happiness? Answer. Happiness is a state of mind or habit where we have pleasant thoughts of greater share of the time. It is the built-in mechanism within us. To understand this better, it might be well to realize that we also have a built-in worry mechanism. These are not two separate entities like two ears on the head, but they are interlocking processes that work daily in our lives. And when we begin to understand who we are, we alone can decide which mechanism we want to use for our purposes, because we can control them. We can make a habit of worrying or of being happy. Worry, like happiness, is also a state of mind in which we throw on the screen of our mind the failures we had in the past and thereby build pictures of failures for some new goal we are undertaking. We have a forebrain which makes us different from the animal. This forebrain, simulated behind our forehead, is the center of our desires, our goals, our hopes, our sense of achievement, our sense of fulfillment. And when we have a goal in view, we we call upon the tape recorder of our mind brain, midbrain, that has registered our past experiences, good and bad, and depending on what we choose from this tape recorder, we will go forward toward this goal, either with happy, winning feelings or with negative feelings that we will fail even before we start. Question: how can there be an abundant living in these fretful, frenetic times? Answer: recently, an author friend of mine told me this story. One morning, he found himself depressed. He felt nuked out, depleted. There was an edge of mockery in his mood, his two beautiful bookends with no books between them. He walked around the grounds of his farm, filling his lungs with pure air. He paused before a grape arbor, surviving the heavy clusters of pure concord hanging from the vines. The fantastic abundance in nature, year in and year out, with no assistance from man, drawing only from the eternal life forces of the good earth, the sun and the rain, and placing its bounty upon the vine for man. He paused before an apple tree. He saw tier on tier, heavy limbs laden with fruit, through a tree he had never even pruned. Luxurious ripe apples for him, for his friends, for his neighbors, for his birds that woke him at dawn, for the little animals of the field. He surveyed the sheer miracle of abundance. Other vistas, other greens, more fruit, more abundance. Who can tally the generous yield, the never-ending abundance, grapes, apples, pears, peaches, plums on the vine, on the branches, on the ground, spilling over, enough to fill any void, even the one hid inside man. In a world of abundance, how can anyone be hollow? He walked back to his desk, no longer feeling depleted. My point is that there is abundance within ourselves to make us happy. If we remember, one, we came into this world to succeed, not to fail. We have a self-image within us filled with abundance. If we use the confidence of our past successes in the present to reach our goals. 3, every day is a life in itself, filled with abundance. If we have a proper image and if we have a useful goal, no matter how small, every day. 4, we rise above failures and mistakes of yesterday, opening the door for abundance and living in the present. 5, we remember what Epictetus said, enough is abundance to the wise. And this means that abundance never leaves when we share our abundant happiness with others. And that should end this session. And I believe the next session is going to be on the 2nd of February, which is Saturday. And on the next session, there's a strong possibility that we will probably finish this particular book and move on to the next one. And I find that will be very, very interesting. So in closing, I thank everybody who will look or see this video in the future. And I pray that you have a wonderful and beautiful day. And I thank everybody for coming. And again, God bless you all and have a great day. Bye-bye.